Welcome to the world of AI Pettyrevenge, a subreddit where everyday people share their clever tales of minor but satisfying payback. This community thrives on stories where the underdog gets their quiet but sweet revenge, usually through wit, humor, or a little harmless mischief. These tales might not change the world, but they deliver that priceless feeling of justice served in the smallest, most amusing ways. Whether it's a coworker who gets their comeuppance for stealing lunch or an ex who gets a taste of their own medicine, the stories here remind us that sometimes it's the little things that count the most. Today, you're going to hear some truly memorable accounts. From a blue food coloring prank in a tiny office to a church barbecue showdown, and even a landlord's costly lesson. Each story carries its own unique charm and a satisfying lesson about standing up for yourself in clever, unexpected ways. In a small office with no more than 10 people working at the same time, food theft was an ongoing problem. Everyone kept an eye on the communal fridge because it seemed like every week someone's lunch or snacks would mysteriously disappear. What made this situation more frustrating was that the thief wasn't just any coworker. It was the owner's son, a guy in his early 20s who acted like he owned the place. Unlike the owner, who at least sometimes paid people back after taking their food, the son was unapologetically rude and never bothered to replace anything. His constant stealing was making everyone fed up. One day, I had an idea to stop him in his tracks. I brought some blue food coloring from home, the same kind my wife used to bake colorful cakes and treats for our kids. My plan was simple. Add a few drops of blue dye to my dairy products like cottage cheese and yogurt to make them look unappetizing and hopefully deter the thief. I almost forgot about the plan until a coworker came in furious that someone had eaten almost all of her cottage cheese, leaving her barely any for herself. She was willing to sacrifice the small remaining amount, so I sprinkled a few drops of the blue coloring into it. Then, I walked right up to the culprit and said, "Dude, were you eating this? It's gone bad. You can't eat this. How did you not notice?" Before I could even finish my sentence, the guy violently puked all over his desk and himself, right in front of everyone. The blue spots in the food made the mess look especially dramatic and disgusting. Watching him squirm and throw up in such a spectacular fashion was priceless. It sent a clear message to everyone in the office. Stealing food isn't going to go unnoticed or unpunished, even if you're the boss's son. After that day, the food theft stopped. Or at least, the blue dye kept the thief away from my snacks. Sometimes a little harmless creativity and patience is all it takes to get justice. My story starts with a long and painful divorce after my ex-wife had multiple affairs during our almost 20 years of marriage. One of those affairs was even with a close friend of mine from our church. After trying to make things work for a long time, I finally gave up and filed for divorce over 2 years ago. The whole process has been messy, with my ex constantly playing the victim and stirring conflict. But I moved on, started dating a wonderful woman, and decided to bring her to my old church's annual Labor Day picnic, a big event with games, activities, and a potluck barbecue. I warned my girlfriend about my ex possibly being there, but we planned to keep a low profile and enjoy ourselves. We even coordinated by wearing matching socks, and I wore a shirt with "Built for Conflict" printed on the back as a little joke. When we arrived, my girlfriend baked a dessert to share, and I took over the grilling duties. The atmosphere was light and fun until my ex spotted us. She looked utterly shocked and eventually came over to tap my girlfriend on the shoulder awkwardly introducing herself as my wife. My girlfriend kept calm and politely shook her hand, which only seemed to irritate my ex further. She told my girlfriend it was awkward for her to be there and hoped she felt that way. My girlfriend simply said, "Okay," and walked away. Later, my ex approached me and demanded I leave, claiming it wasn't my church anymore. I told her, "Not going to happen," and kept my ground. When she complained to the pastor, who is also my good friend and was even the best man at our wedding, he came to talk to me and confirmed he wouldn't ask me to leave. I told him my ex needed to grow up. By the time my ex returned to her friends, some of whom were also mine, she was visibly distraught. She even sought comfort from the man she'd had an affair with and his wife, highlighting how messy the situation was. Meanwhile, my girlfriend and I enjoyed the rest of the day, mingling with old friends and watching my ex's public meltdown with quiet satisfaction. In the comments on the story, people pointed out the hypocrisy of my ex's victim act, especially given her affairs. One comment called her out for being the real problem, and honestly, that summed it up perfectly. At the end of the day, I felt a strong sense of victory and peace. And the best part was seeing my stunning girlfriend, who left many guests dumbfounded. Sometimes life's petty revenge isn't about drama, but about reclaiming your dignity and happiness. A few years ago, my wife and I were moving out of our apartment and expected a smooth transition. On moving day, the landlord showed up and we walked through the unit together. Despite some minor issues, he agreed to refund our full security deposit, and we left on good terms. But just a few days later, we received a furious voicemail from him, claiming that the room I'd used as my office smelled horrible, like repeated cat urine damage, and that we were responsible for costly repairs like tearing down wallpaper, replacing the wood flooring, and repainting. We were shocked because we had our cats, but the apartment had been professionally cleaned before handing it back, and I used the office daily without noticing any smell. We suspected that maybe some animal got in after we left, or the landlord was making false claims to keep our deposit. We refused to pay for any repairs. Digging deeper, I learned about tenant laws where we live. If the landlord doesn't claim damages within 6 months after the lease ends, they must return the full deposit legally. So I decided to wait out that time and be patient. When the 6 months passed, I messaged the landlord asking for the deposit refund within 2 weeks. He replied sarcastically, but didn't send the money. After sending a formal demand with a second deadline, we still heard nothing. That's when we hired an attorney. The landlord tried to claim all sorts of exaggerated damages, hoping to keep our deposit, but the lawyer dismissed those since the legal claim period had expired. For some reason, the landlord only paid about 80% of what he owed, forcing our attorney to step in again. He finally paid the full amount, including interest and legal fees, which was a big win for us. After everything was settled, my wife and I celebrated in our new home's garden with a glass of wine. We even burned the old rental agreement, feeling satisfied. I urge renters everywhere to know their local laws because sometimes landlords' greed can cost them far more than they expect. This experience taught us that patience, knowledge, and a little legal muscle can turn the tables, even on stubborn landlords. Growing up, I was diagnosed with autism and several developmental disorders. My mom, despite loving me, often put limits on what she thought I could achieve. She believed my diagnosis defined me in a way that held me back before I even tried. Simple things like trying new activities or aiming for goals were met with skepticism or discouragement. For example, when I told her I wanted to join a competitive gaming league, she brushed it off, saying, "You won't be able to keep up." It was frustrating because she never gave me the chance to prove her wrong. One day I decided to challenge her assumptions in a way she wouldn't expect. I invited her to watch me play a complicated multiplayer game online. I spent hours demonstrating my skills, strategy, and quick thinking. As I carried my team to victory after victory, I noticed her growing frustration. She went from doubt to disbelief to silence. She had no comeback. Later, I heard a funny story from a friend online who said their own mom always got her back by leaving books about early onset dementia and nursing homes around the house. A playful way to hint that sometimes people are their own worst enemies. Some commenters even mention Munchausen's by proxy, a condition where a caregiver fabricates or exaggerates illnesses for attention. It made me wonder how often misguided beliefs do more harm than good, even when people mean well. In the end, that gaming session wasn't just about beating the game. It was about quietly standing up to the limitations others tried to put on me. Sometimes, the best revenge is showing people what you're truly capable of, even if they never say it out loud. 3 years ago, a woman named Christine had my phone number. Since then, I've been living with the chaos she left behind. Debt collectors called nonstop. Old flames, both male and female, kept trying to reach her. Family members and even her workplace sent appointment reminders and confirmations. Hairdressers, doctors, lawyers, you name it. All of it was meant for Christine, but it was ringing on my phone. At first, I was polite. I explained repeatedly that she no longer had this number and asked callers to have her update her contact info. "Thanks, we'll get her to update," became the standard reply. But the calls and texts kept coming, sometimes multiple times a day. I even cited privacy laws to medical offices to reduce calls, but it didn't solve the problem. After a year of this madness, I'd had enough. I stopped responding to appointment confirmations until the day before the event. Then I'd cancel everything. Gynecologist? Canceled. Hair appointment? Canceled. Lawyer consultation? Canceled. When callers asked why, I simply said, "Sorry, Christine can't make it anymore." Slowly, Christine started changing her number. The cancellations meant she was losing appointments she'd waited months to get. The pressure was working. Then came the big moment. I got a text from her boss asking her to come in early for a meeting. I sent the message on her behalf saying, "I quit." The very next day, her boss texted me, furious, calling me unprofessional and unkind. I replied, "Get Christine to change her number." Christine responded with angry, profanity-laced messages demanding I stop interfering. I told her firmly, "Change your number, or I'll keep canceling everything." The rage texts kept coming, but the calls stopped. In the end, no more appointments came through. Some family members still call, but they're fewer now. This experience taught me the value of updating your contact details promptly. When you pass your number on to someone else, you're giving them the power to disrupt your life. And sometimes, they use that power. It's a cautionary tale about responsibility, persistence, and the little battles that phone number changes can cause. So, to anyone inheriting a new number, update your contacts fast, or face the consequences of a stranger's petty revenge. Years ago, I was at a professional conference, sitting on a panel discussion with other experts in my field. I was the only woman on the panel and one of the youngest. Recently completed my master's degree and had over 10 years of experience under my belt. During a break, I was introduced to a well-known man in the industry who had a reputation for being arrogant. I extended my hand for a handshake, but he sneered and said, "I have more experience than you've had years alive." I was stunned. I had never met him before, and there was no reason for such animosity. I shrugged it off, but I never forgot. Fast forward 15 years. I now work at a large agency that hires contractors for projects we can't do in-house. The same arrogant man applied for several contracts we had available. When his name came up, I shared the story of his rudeness with my team and recommended we not work with him. The agency agreed. He never got the contracts. He probably never knew why. This quiet professional revenge felt satisfying. I didn't have to confront him directly or cause a scene. Just knowing that his bad attitude cost him opportunities made me smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud or obvious. It's the subtle decisions that affect a person's career without them ever realizing why. One commenter shared a story about working at the college she was attending when she caught a fellow student stealing goods donated for charity. The student was suspended for a year and graduated a year behind the commenter. But the student didn't stop there. For revenge, she falsely accused the commenter of misconduct. Though the commenter was cleared, the accusations made the rest of her school year miserable. Years later, the student applied for a job at the commenter's workplace. When the commenter learned this, she went straight to HR and told them the full story. The theft, the false accusations, everything. HR was grateful for the honesty and told her they wouldn't be interviewing the student. The commenter found satisfaction knowing she'd quietly blocked the student's job opportunity, proving that sometimes standing up for yourself pays off years later. These stories remind us that revenge doesn't have to be grand or destructive. Sometimes the smartest and most satisfying revenge is small, clever, and patient. Whether it's coloring food to stop a thief, standing up to unfair assumptions, or using the law to protect yourself, these tales show the power of persistence and wit. Knowing your rights and having the confidence to stand up for yourself makes all the difference. Life will always throw challenges your way. Unfair bosses, exes, greedy landlords, or people who think they can walk over you. But with patience, humor, and a bit of cleverness, you can turn the tables. If these stories inspired you, remember, your own clever victories can be just around the corner. Keep your eyes open, your mind sharp, and never be afraid to take control of your story. For more tales of justice served in the most satisfying ways, subscribe or follow. There's always a new story waiting to remind you that sometimes petty revenge is the sweetest kind.